Good evening, everyone. 1 year ago tonight, I sat on this set talking about the unthinkable. A coworker, someone I knew well, disappearing. Everything seemed like slow motion that day looking back, especially some of the journalistic instincts. You know, getting to the bottom of the story for a moment took a backseat to wondering if we'd ever find Jodi. And once we found her, if she'd be alive. At first I thought maybe something had come up that morning a year ago. Maybe she had to leave something really important and go to that, or maybe had a personal problem to take care of. You never know. But that was optimism talking. I knew better. Frankly, not much has changed in this story since last June. There have been bits and pieces here and there, but the ultimate goal of finding Jodi, alive and well, has been unreachable. This next half hour is for the now 28-year-old Jodi Huisentruit, who came into your kitchens and living rooms for close to 2 years. It's also the story of hundreds of other missing children and adults, and the unsolved cases that leave so many people so empty. We begin with a point-by-point story of what we know about Jodi's disappearance. Here's Dan Klaus with the chronology. Dan?
June 27th, 1995 is a day most of us will never forget. It's the day our friend and colleague Jodi Huisentruit was set to make the short journey from here at our Mason City apartment complex to work at the KIMT studios, a distance of only about 7 blocks. But Jodi never completed that journey, and authorities are still trying to figure out why. Jodi usually arrived in the KIMT newsroom for work around 3:30 every morning. But as the clock hit 4:10 on that Tuesday, Jodi still wasn't at her desk. Coworker Amy Coons became concerned and called Jodi at home to make sure she was on her way in. Jodi answered the phone in her apartment, telling Amy she'd simply overslept and would be at the station shortly. But for reasons still unknown, Jodi never made it. When Jodi still hadn't arrived at work by 7 o'clock that morning, Amy called the local police to go check on her. Now, at the time, nobody realized just how serious the situation was. But soon after they arrived on the scene, authorities realized something was dreadfully wrong. When police got to Jodi's apartment complex, they immediately found evidence of a struggle. Several of Jodi's personal belongings were found scattered near her car, which was still sitting in the apartment parking lot. Authorities theorized that Jodi had been taken somewhere against her will, and quickly classified Jodi as a missing person. The day ended with Jodi's whereabouts still a mystery. On Wednesday, June 28th, the search for Jodi kicked into high gear. Agents from both the FBI and DCI were brought in to help with the investigation, and hundreds of volunteers started combing the Mason City area, looking for clues into Jodi's disappearance. But despite these efforts, no major discoveries were made. By the end of the day, Jodi's story was attracting national attention, and news media from all across the country started converging on Mason City to learn more about this baffling case. At that point, there were many questions on everyone's mind. How could something like this happen in a town like Mason City? Who could be responsible, and why? Local authorities told people not to be concerned about a serial kidnapper being on the loose, but did admit they didn't have any real suspects in Jodi's disappearance. On Thursday, June 29th, authorities continued to interview people they thought could possibly help them find Jodi. At a news conference, Mason City Police Chief Jack Schleeper told reporters the department had narrowed its focus to about a dozen people they wanted to continue questioning, but still didn't have any actual suspects in the case or any significant leads. On Friday, June 30th, the search for Jodi moved to an even higher level. Specially trained dogs were led through local fields, and teams of boats traveled nearby rivers looking for clues. But once again, nothing significant was found. A reward fund for information about Jodi's case had already grown to over $20,000 at this point, generating hundreds of calls on a Crime Stoppers tip line from people trying to help. On Saturday, July 1st, Jodi's case was officially called an abduction. Searchers continued combing the area for evidence, but once again came up empty. Police officials also announced they were trying to locate a mysterious white van that was apparently seen near Jodi's apartment complex the morning she disappeared. Interviews with people about the case also continued as authorities tried to figure out where Jodi might be. Iowa National Guard helicopters were brought in on Sunday, July 2nd to help with the search efforts. Hundreds of people also packed a church service at Jodi's usual place of worship to keep hope alive for her safe return. By the end of the weekend, Jodi had been missing for over 5 days. Investigators had been working on the case almost non-stop since Jodi vanished. And as the July 4th holiday approached, they vowed to continue trying their best to solve this mysterious puzzle. It's now been a whole year since Jodi last walked through these doors here at the station, and sadly not much new information about her disappearance has been uncovered. We still see her picture and the yellow ribbons every day that we come to work, and it reminds us that we still need to keep searching for more answers to try and solve this troubling mystery.
Certainly a troubling mystery. Thank you, Dan. A mystery that essentially turned into one of the largest missing persons investigations ever in Iowa. But no matter how large, the result is still the same today. No Jodi. 1 year later, and it seems like an eternity to me, maybe to you as well, the police remain on the trail. Our Julie Mosier brings us the latest on their investigation.
Where do you see the future of the Jodi Huisentruit case going?
I've made it clear this case is not going to go away for us. That whenever there's a tip that comes in, we will work that information.
Each day, investigators receive around 3 to 4 tips. Since the night of Jodi's abduction, the Mason City Police Department, along with the Department of Criminal Investigation and the FBI, have investigated over 1,200 tips. But no arrests have been made.
Well, certainly it's frustrating at times, but you get over that. It doesn't last very long, and you get upbeat and optimistic again, and the next tip comes in, and I get going.
Every tip that comes into the Mason City Police Department is prioritized. Chief Schleeper, along with lead investigator Stearns, rank each tip according to importance, and then they follow up on the ones they feel are most important.
Then we take a look at where the tip would take us. Would it take us within close proximity of Mason City? If so, then a Mason City officer would be assigned to it. Would it take us in the region? If so, then a DCI agent would perhaps be assigned to it. If it takes us outside of Iowa or outside of the Midwest region, then we would ask the FBI to maybe handle that. We've conducted investigations on the East Coast, as well as in some states to the south, and quite a bit of the country.
365 days and no solid leads, warrants, or suspects. Despite the lack of progress, officers on the case remain hopeful.
Well, I think we have to remain optimistic. That's what helps me get through and continue working the case. So I still got an up attitude, and I'm still hopeful.
It might seem like Jodi disappeared into thin air, but the Mason City Police Department says their commitment to the case hasn't. Investigators emphasize their level of dedication to finding Jodi and her abductor remains high.
And we couldn't agree more. We'd also like to think that we are a part of Jodi's family. That's true in a way, but her real family grieves in a way that maybe we don't even understand. But like us, they want to be able to quit feeling so empty inside. Lisa Lemke is in Jodi's hometown with her family. Lisa?
For Jodi's family and friends, there are constant reminders of that bright light that's now missing from their lives. Photographs, her favorite places to be, memories of special times spent together. Those reminders can be very painful, but at the same time, those reminders are what keeps Jodi in their hearts every day.
Welcome back to Daybreak and to our 1-hour morning show. It's a rainy Monday morning, June 26th. The time.
It was just like she wanted to live life always to the fullest. Make every minute count.
Excited about the Queen Show. The Queen Show does come up.
I couldn't have had a better kid sister, you know. She tried to motivate me all the time. Now, what are your goals for this coming year, you know? So I think of those things, and that makes me stronger, because I know Jodi would want me to be strong for everybody.
At Lake Charlotte, near their hometown of Long Prairie, Joanne Nathy talks about her sister. In this place where Jodi spent so much time, the memories flow easily, and for Joanne, there are so many.
She was the darling of our family, you know, the baby, and oh, she was our pride and joy, and all that love she received and attention. I often told her, Jodi, I think you need more sleep, you know, but coming from an older sister, she didn't really care to hear that, so.
For Joanne, those good memories have not faded in the past year, but neither has the pain.
It's the worst. It's a nightmare, this not knowing where she is. We were hoping to find her within, you know, at least the first few months, and now it's been a year, and it's I don't know. It worries us a great deal that a year has passed.
It worries Jodi's friends and other family members too.
It doesn't seem possible a year has gone by or that this has even happened. It's like when you're forced to think about it.
This place holds a lot of memories for Maureen. The last time she saw Jodi was right here at Lake Calhoun in the Twin Cities.
And there's that void in your life, and that's what's real difficult. Because she was like, to my husband and I, she was a sister. You know, it's worse than a death because you can't put conclusion on this. And to know that she's somewhere out there and somebody knows something and they're not speaking up.
We feel so bad because Jodi's not with us anymore. And when this happens to you, there's no rules as to when do you start to grieve and when do you start to not grieve.
And you want to, you know, think that you're going to hope forever and ever and ever, but like Amy said, there's got to be a time when you have to deal with it, and you just, you know, you feel guilty if you feel like you've come to terms with it. And sometimes you feel like that, and then the next minute you hear a story from someone and like there's that glimmer of hope right there.
Hope that everyone who loved Jodi wants to hold on to even 1 year later.
Jodi would be that way for us. She wouldn't give up hope until she knew otherwise, and the eternal optimist that she is.
I flip back and forth, but most of me wants to remain hopeful.
You're welcome. Well, up next on Midday, we are going to have a doozy of a time. Let me tell you, we're going to be
Statistics are not in our favor. However, I do believe in miracles. I've said this before. I'm praying that we're going to be that lucky to get her back. I worry that maybe we're not going to have that future that we planned. We had a bright future ahead of us. She had a bright future. We were so looking forward to her reaching her goals and her achievements. So that's tough. When I look at that, I sit and cry.
And what keeps Joanne hoping is knowing her sister's spirit and hanging on to the things that made her so special.
Hang in there. Be strong, like you always have been. We're going to find you. Just hang in there.
The statistics may not be in Jodi's favor, and in reality, they may be more grim with each passing day. But those statistics cannot measure Jodi's strength and will, nor the hope of those who love her.
Certainly true, Lisa. Mere numbers can never tell the whole story. Now, one course of action the family took a couple of months after Jodi was abducted was to hire a couple of private eyes. Our Susan Zilmer caught up with them recently in Mason City.
I'm Doug Jasa. This is Patrick McCarthy.
Hi. It's nice to meet you.
I'm sorry to bother you.
That's right.
We're the private investigators that have been hired by the Huisentruit family. Can we ask you just a few questions? This investigation has taken us just about literally everywhere. I mean, we've been in Mason City so many times. We've been on the West Coast.
The footwork doesn't stop the private eyes, still based on their same scenario of how they think Jodi was abducted.
Someone saw Jodi either in person or on television within a few weeks of her disappearance and stalked her, figured out a routine, and took her.
As we take a look inside the actual investigation, a large part of their job is rechecking tips and re-interviewing. And today that takes them back to Jodi's apartment.
We wanted to talk to them firsthand, make sure that we were getting the information correctly, and also oftentimes people repeating information or thinking about it for some time. Sometimes they think of something they didn't think of before because of the circumstances.
The lady specifically remembers looking at her clock, knowing exactly what time it was when she heard the scream. And she was already awake. It was definitely a scream that how'd she put it, Patrick? Unmistakable scream of fear.
Are you able, just from what you learn now, I guess, to go on another avenue, to go on another angle?
No. We would like to talk to the other two people that are not home at this point in time to hear what they have to say also. But no, we have not learned anything new. Look for credibility in the witnesses. and if the information they're giving us is verifiable with a second party, for example.
The investigators' questioning process also brings them back to a witness for a second time.
Patrick interviewed you about probably 6 months ago now.
Yeah.
And tell me what you saw again.
I just saw, I was in the going by the Key Apartments here, and there was a white van parked there. Had its parking lights on.
And as his information is confirmed, that connection with the white van lingers in the investigators' minds. But the wait is ongoing for that tip to break the case wide open.
Dozens, if not hundreds, of possibilities that we've looked at and eliminated. And so it's really closing down the number of possibilities.
We stay on the case as long as the family wants us on the case, and even if funds run out, I'm willing to spend my personal time and my personal money for a period of time to continue trying to find out what happened to Jodi.
The answer that all of us are looking for. Now, over the course of the investigation, the police never named a suspect. The man in the monitor next to me thought he was a suspect, John Van Cise. He's believed to be the last person who saw Jodi before she disappeared. Police questioned him several times. John Van Cise even volunteered the information to us that he passed a lie detector test twice. Even now, police won't call him a suspect. We'll be right back. These names that you're looking at are Missing Persons Information Clearinghouse. They were put together each month by the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation in association with the Department of Public Health. If you recognize one of these people and you know where they are, please contact the number that will be coming up on your screen. There are hundreds of other names of missing Iowans, children, adults. They're all here. But if you turn to the back of this missing persons clearance, there's actually a lot of those people have been found that were in here once. Happy endings. It's the type of inspiration that maybe we can draw from. Tara Thomas has two other stories also looking for your help.
This is 11-year-old Jacob, who lives on in the memory of those who knew him. But nearly 7 years later, this age-enhanced photo shows Jacob at 18, how he might look today.
I try to think what his voice sounds like. And I don't know if I'd recognize it, actually.
Since 1989, the Wetterlings have lived each day unable to see their son grow up, unsure of what he might be like today.
We are a family of 6, and I don't know where Jacob is, but I have no proof, no reason to believe he's not alive. I have nothing to show me that he's not alive. And
one major difference from this case and Jodi's is that people saw Jacob being taken. So far, Jodi's case has no eyewitnesses, but it's still not helping the Wetterling case much. No one got a good look at the masked man, and the case remains unsolved.
That's what's so hard. We don't know, but we pray that he is alive.
Finding Jacob has been the focus of the Wetterlings' lives ever since the night he disappeared. And here in North Iowa, another woman's memory has kept one community looking for answers, though in this case, she is no longer alive. At age 22, Rhonda Knudsen's life ended on Labor Day weekend in 1992.
Rhonda was working alone at the convenience store, and somewhere between 4 and 5 in the morning, Rhonda was murdered. There's not a day that goes by. I mean, there's absolutely not a day goes by that I don't think about it.
Those who knew Rhonda say the New Hampton native had no enemies, which may explain why police have no answers. Time passes, seasons change, and memories can fade, but the memory of Rhonda and what happened to her here cannot be easily forgotten. Every day, people stop in here and ask questions about her and bring her name up in conversation to the employees. And for those closest to the case, Remembering what happened to her that night seems as if it were only yesterday. Ray Robrock owns the gas station where Rhonda worked. He found her dead that morning.
I can see her laying where I found her. Every day I worked every night since she's been gone. And, you know, no, it'll never go out of my mind, no.
Now, there are some telephone numbers that you can call for Jacob Wetterling and for Rhonda Knutson and for Jodi Huisentruit. Those are the numbers. A couple of them are toll-free. If you forget these numbers, folks, please call your local police department. Large reward funds have been set up for anyone with information. In southern Minnesota, a similarly eerie case to Jodi's that also turns 1 year old today. Sadna Murado is in Cannon Falls. Sadna?
Well, Brian, we've all had to deal with Jodi's disappearance, but residents here in Cannon Falls, Minnesota have had to cope with a similar situation. A little girl from this town disappeared the same day as Jodi.
Dream about it and stuff. It's like that we just get a knock on the door or something, you open the door and she's standing there, you know? And just like she disappeared and then she just reappears out of the blue. Yep, that's what we're hoping on.
The disappearance of 3-year-old Jessica Swanson still haunts those who knew the little girl. 1 year ago today, Jessica was reported missing from her bedroom. She hasn't been seen since.
It's tough. It's very tough for them to have this incident happen in a community. The idea that there's a 3 or 4-year-old girl possibly laying out somewhere and not properly put to rest, it wears on the community.
And aside from occurring the same day, officials say there's little that connects both cases.
We did receive a few leads that we passed on down to Iowa, and they likewise sent a few up to us, but they were insignificant.
And a year later, how have officials been able to handle not having this case solved yet?
Well, it's tough. You think about it every day. I know the officers around here, we talk about it, and we back and forth different ideas of what could. And, law enforcement's a family. It's a large community or family, and it's a personal thing. And mostly, I suppose, you know, you're talking a little child, and that tugs at everybody's heart.
It's a missing person, and that just comes from inside you to want to know what happened, what went wrong.
And officials in this case say, as in Jodi's, time is on their side.
Time works in your favor. It started with one phone call, and it will end with one phone call.
At this time, both Jodi and Jessica's case remains unsolved, and officials continue to investigate even though it has been 1 year. But those that care about them continue to have hope that they will get answers soon.
Thank you, Sadna. We do hope time is on both Jessica and Jodi's side. Well, this is a story that has traveled the globe. Jodi's we're talking about. I know Jodi is thankful for that. It's safe to say that she got more coverage than maybe some other missing people simply because she was in the public eye, and it certainly didn't hurt that she worked at a television station. David Kenny tonight with an outside perspective to this abduction.
For Samantha Kearns, a reporter for KGAN News, June 27th marks a turning point in her life, just as it did Jodi's.
Covering the story, it's something that's really touched me, you know, because it was the first story that I covered here at Channel 2, and because I was moving to Iowa, and I always thought that Iowa was this, you know, this safe place, and then for my first story to cover someone being abducted, and they were in the same profession as I, it made me kind of uneasy.
Samantha says not a day goes by when she doesn't do research on the continuing search for Jodi. The significance of Jodi's abduction has not been forgotten on the news agenda here to Eastern Iowa viewers.
Anytime you hear something about Jodi, everybody jumps because they want it, you know, they want to get it first. I mean, it's a very competitive, everyone's pretty competitive about it as well.
For employees here at News Channel 2, Jodi's abduction is not just another big story. She has a special connection to the station. Jodi worked at KGAN before she came to News Channel 3.
I met Jodi when she began working here, which has been 4 years maybe ago now. We got to be pretty close friends.
And without any leads in her case, those who knew her are still in disbelief.
Friends of hers, we talk about that here at Channel 2 all the time. I mean, you hear the headlines, disappeared without a trace? My God, this is the 90s. We just think there's got to be some way of tracking or tracing or There's got to be some clue that she's left behind, some stone that isn't unturned yet.
Things are changing here at News Channel 3, just like any business, only you get to see our growing pains. Pains that would be happening here even if Jodi were still with us. Some of the people working here now never knew Jodi, just as the people new at your office may not know about this story. So everyone here has the personal choice of whether to wear this ribbon and for how long to wear it. You may see people stop wearing them in the near future, but that simply doesn't mean they no longer care. Remember, symbols mean different things to different people. Two people closest to Jodi, both professionally and personally, have since moved to different cities, not because of the crime that took place here, but simply bettered their careers. We begin with Robin Wolfram, who knew Jodi's heart the best.
It's been nearly 6 months since I first sat at this desk here at WTHR in Indianapolis, and now it seems like years ago. But when I think about Jodi, it seems like yesterday that we shared a laugh and a hug. It's hard to believe that it's been a year since she touched so many lives with her infectious laugh, her twinkling eyes, and those two little adorable dimples that she had on each cheek. I try and remember all the good times and the hearts that Jodi touched. Not a day goes by that I don't think of her. She's always with me. In fact, when I first sat at this desk, I knew Jodi was excited for me too. She may not continue to touch hearts here on earth, but her memories always will. And if she is never to return, I know she's touching hearts in heaven.
Well, it's been almost 3 months since I left News Channel 3, and of course it's been a year since Jodi's abduction. Now, I try not to think about the bad anymore, and I don't think Jodi would want us to, but I certainly remember the good. When she and I would laugh in the morning, trying to get people out of bed. Of course, I anchored with her on the morning show for about a year and a half. Had a lot of fun doing that. She was a bubbly, very lively person. Certainly once you got to know her, you could see that. But those are the things that I'm going to remember the most. Laughing so hard, sometimes we would cry, even on air. We'd look at each other and think, I don't know what's going on, do you? And we would just sit there and laugh. Now, she's out there somewhere, still making people laugh. A lot of us just can't hear her anymore. It was fun working with Jodi Huisentruit, that's for sure. And that's what I remember, and that's what I'm always going to remember.
Good points, Don and Robin. We need to remember those good things. But we still need closure to this somehow, especially for the family. Jodi's abduction has changed all of us. There's Amy Coons now to share her perspective.
As Jodi's morning producer, I was the last one to talk to her before she disappeared. Her disappearance has affected everyone in the Mason City community, her family, the people she worked with every day. It's changed me, the way I look at work and at life. My husband, Ron, now gets up in what may seem like the middle of the night to him to bring me to work. He wouldn't have it any other way, and I wouldn't either. Even though I feel like I have lost a little bit of my independence, I think a lot of us feel that way, that we've lost some independence. We're more fearful, less trusting.
Couldn't agree with you more, Amy. Now, when I've heard this date in passing, June 27th, 1996, it's referred to as the one-year anniversary of Jodi's disappearance. And that troubles me. Anniversaries are supposed to be celebrations, and this is far from it. Like Amy said, it has been a learning experience for many of us. I try not to take those closest to me for granted. I realize that all of that could change in an instant. I also look at victims of such tragedies differently now when it comes to the news gathering. I can speak for everyone here at the station when I say your concern is greatly appreciated. The cards, the flowers, the kind remarks, thank you so much. But remember, we're not the ones missing. Our lives may be troubled in some respects because of this crime, but it doesn't compare. Life goes on. But don't ever forget what makes it so special.